Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's not looking good, I'll be honest.
It's not looking good, bruv.
The Milwaukee Bucks are currently 1-6. I mean, they play tonight. This is probably going to come out after they play, so they might be 2-6. But either way, they are bottom of the Eastern Conference right now.
Y'all are trash.
They're playing against the Utah Jazz tonight. The Utah Jazz are bottom of the Western Conference. They also have a 1-6 record right now. And I'm looking at the Milwaukee Bucks. They have two Hall of Famers. Cool, they don't have Chris Middleton on the court, but they have two Hall of Famers. Two Hall of Famers playing well. How in God's name are they not at least in playoff contention? I know we're only 8 games in, but come on, boys. So first thing I wanted to look at was the performances of their star players. You have to look at Giannis Antetokounmpo and you have to look at Damian Lillard. You can't really fault the Milwaukee Bucks at all, really. I mean, Damian Lillard's shooting decent percentages. If we're looking, he's shooting 45% from the field and 39% from 3. Well, Giannis Antetokounmpo is averaging 31 points. He's shooting 63% from the field. He's only averaging 0.5 3-point attempts per game, so he's only shot like 3-point attempts per game. But he's still averaging 31 and playing amazing basketball. Damian Lillard is playing good basketball. There's been games we've seen Damian Lillard not play well, but he came back the next game and was still good, but they lost that game. So you've got to ask yourself now, if the star players are playing this well, what does it come down to? And it comes down to two main factors. You've got the periphery players, everybody else, the secondary players, the tertiary players even, and you've got the coaching. First thing, let's look at the periphery players, these other players in their team. So you got to look at Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez is 7 foot tall. 7, and he is shooting 39% from the field. 39. He's attempting nearly 6 threes a game and shooting 28% from 3. I think as a big man, if you're a 3-point shooting big man, cool. But once that game doesn't work, you have to go back to basics. You have to contribute something to your team. And Brook Lopez just hasn't been doing that this season. It's been really, really bad performances, especially even defensively. He hasn't looked good at all. I know Giannis. Giannis is basically 7 foot, glass cleaner, fantastic on the glass, rebounding. But you've got to average more than 5 rebounds per game, Brook Lopez. You're 7 foot tall. You're massive. You're huge. It's not like you're a skinny 7 foot tall player. You're huge. You're a defensive player and you can't grab a board. Like Damian Lillard averages 4.6 rebounds per game and you're averaging 5.3. It's not good enough. And then you've got another player, Gary Trent Jr. I'm not even going to look at the stats. I think he's shooting 29% from the field. Something really, really, really bad. And they've signed him as their defensive stopper to be able to create for them on the perimeter, to defend for them on the perimeter, but also be that spot up shooter for them, because you know they have two of the biggest gravitational pull players in basketball, in Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But that's why you need to have a good defensive stopper as well as a 3-point shooter. You need a good 3-and-D. Gary Trent Jr. was never a good he was alright, he was decent, he could knock down a 3 sometimes, but he's a streaky shooter. That's what he is. But when he's got it, he's got it. Right now, he hasn't got it. But he's never been a good defender. He's been an alright defender his whole career. So I don't understand. I mean, they've regressed slowly, you know, in terms of their 3-and-D. Like, DiVincenzo was a good, decent 3-and-D. D wasn't amazing, but he's a good defender. You know what I mean? And then they went on to Malik Beasley, whose D isn't great, but I mean, his 3-point shot could fall, helps them there, you know. And then now they push back even further. It's like they're slowly going down their stages to just nothing. No 3, no D. Because right now, Gary Trent Jr. can't hit a 3 to save his life. It's not looking good. The one bright spot they have right now is an actual 3-and-D player in Taurean Prince. But Taurean Prince doesn't get more PT than Gary Trent. Taurean Prince doesn't necessarily close out games. You know, and it comes down to that sense. Doc Rivers hasn't been a good coach since 2008. Doc Rivers went to the Clippers. Clippers could have been a championship level team, but that team was coached by Chris Paul. That team wasn't coached by Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is meant to be a defensive coach. Doc Rivers' defense has been ridiculously bad. The Milwaukee Bucks are bottom 10 in defensive rating, with 2 of the best defensive players in basketball. They're bottom 2 in offensive rating, and 2 of the best scorers are on their team in all of basketball. Where are the schemes? Where's the transition defense? They have the worst transition defense in all of basketball. I don't know what the stat says, but from an eye test, they have the worst transition defense in the entirety of basketball. I watched them play against the Memphis Grizzlies, and it was like, on the break, Ja Morant chucked the ball, wide open layup. On the break, Ja Morant driving down, wide open layup. How many wide open shots are teams going to get? You have a 27 points per game shooter on your team. You have a 31 points per game shooter on your team. Giannis, set a damn screen. He's the most selfish screener in all of basketball. You won't ever give anyone a screen unless he gets the ball back. It doesn't work like that. Pick and roll only works if both two players are going to play the pick. Giannis, stop being a help defender. You can guard the perimeter. Giannis is, people always talk about him being one of the most adaptable, portable defenders in all of basketball, but he won't ever take the man. This season at least, he hasn't taken a man on the perimeter. He hasn't taken the ball handler ever on the perimeter. And I don't know why. Why are you leaving him with Gary Trent Jr.? I mean, I like good basketball. I'm a man who loves and adores good basketball. I have two of the best players of all time. Two top 75 players. Obviously, I don't know if Damian Lillard is a top 75 player, but he's in the list. Damian Lillard is in the list. So, two of the best players ever. Two top 100 players, there you go, ever to have played in the NBA. And somehow they have the worst record in the NBA. Now let's take a look. Let's take a look at the Milwaukee Bucks against the Cavaliers that they played 2 days ago. Cavaliers are the best team in basketball right now. They're beautiful to watch. It would have been the Thunder or them, but the Thunder just lost to Nikola Jokic and Russell Westbrook's Denver Nuggets. But let's take a look at just some of the possessions of the Milwaukee Bucks. So here we are, starting off the game, sprinting down. Wide open layup, Donovan Mitchell. First possession of the game. They lose the ball and it's a wide open layup. But Portis hasn't played bad as well, to be fair. As you can see, good layup up there from him. Drop coverage always. You know you've got your perimeter defender being Gary Trent Jr. Too small. Why is Gary Trent Jr. guarding Donovan Mitchell? Let's take a look closer to where the game was a lot closer. Towards the end of the game, I think the Milwaukee Bucks were leading at this point. So it's come down to crunch time. They can't keep a hold of the ball. They've got some of their worst players in the lineup right now. And in transition, once again, we see, I don't know what schematically they're doing in transition, but they seemingly can't have anything in transition. They're getting blown by the perimeter. The perimeter defense is nothingness. And you're expecting Brook Lopez to try and help, but Brook Lopez can't just help everything. You know, you're expecting Giannis to help, but Giannis hasn't been helping much, you know, because Evan Mobley's knocking down the three now. You know, Jared Allen can play great in the short roll. Another position here, pick and roll there. And it all falls apart solely because of effort. There's no effort to fight over the screen. No communication over the screen. Another position in half-court setting. One of the best short rollers in basketball there in Jared Allen. So they've got to watch him and he can knock down the three because the perimeter defense isn't good enough. Like I've said before, like I'll say again, basketball comes down to three separate forms of defense. Perimeter defense, inside defense, and transition defense. Perimeter defense and inside defense are both in the half-court setting. As long as you can defend that well, you're alright. You need a good big to be able to defend inside. Namely, let's take the Celtics, who have an overarching, cohesive team. Inside, they have a player like Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, good inside defenders. Kristaps Porzingis being a really good shot blocker. You go on the perimeter, they have more defenders because there's more players, because it's a three-point shooting league, but Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White, three elite perimeter defenders. In transition, Drew Holiday is a fantastic transition defender for his size. Al Horford is a good transition defender, especially holding back. If he's not in the paint, he will watch for the cherry picker. Or Jason Tatum, I think, is one of the best transition defenders in the league. I think he's able to put pressure on the player running back, and I don't think it's appreciated. There's a lot of good transition defenders like LeBron James, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, but Giannis hasn't been showing that. Giannis hasn't been putting the effort to come back and defend. Brook Lopez hasn't had the opportunity to make more stops because a player like Gary Trent is holding a player from making the easy layup. He hasn't had opportunity to go for the block. You know, these are two players that are defensive player of the year caliber players, just not putting in the effort. And I think some of that comes down to Doc Rivers and his coaching. Some of that comes down to the individual players. Now, I hope the Milwaukee Bucks are better. because the Milwaukee Bucks were in my playoff contenders. I think a season in, they should be raring to go, should be ready to work together cohesively, especially with two of the best players. But if it doesn't get better soon, you're going to need to go, Doc. You know what? Scratch that. Doc, you need to go now. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.